Guys, welcome to the Hot Rod Reverend channel here on YouTube. And if you're joining us by way of the HotRodReverend.com blog series of articles on this 1955 Ford Fairlane, welcome to you as well. I have owned this 1955 Ford Club Sedan since I was 16 years old. Many people know me for two reasons. Number one, I am a pastor. I'm an ordained minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ, been preaching for a number of years. Number two, I also enjoy mid-50s Fords and high performance, especially the Y-block Ford V8 engine. If you are a regular subscriber to HotRodReverend.com and you get the updates on emails, or maybe if you're a subscriber to the channel here on YouTube, then you understand and you know me very well. Most of my playlists and most of my articles have something to do with the Y-block Ford V8, maybe something with the intakes, the exhaust, the carburation, the ignition system, oil pan, camshafts, all kinds of things. If you search my playlist or if you look at all the articles on HotRodReverend.com, you will find one thing missing, and that is this. There is no build series. There is no playlist for building a Y-block from beginning to end. And there have been so many emails and messages over the past several months to me and to Tim McMaster, maybe a few other guys, about trying to get on YouTube or trying to get something, a video series together on building a Y-block Ford V8 engine. So, without further ado, this is the introductory video for that build series. Hey, it couldn't be better. The Y-block guy and the Hot Rod Reverend joining forces here to put together some great content for you here on YouTube. That's right, you heard correctly. This will be the first series of videos on building a stout, street, good performing Y-block. I don't think really there is anywhere on the internet or otherwise a video series on building up a Y-block Ford V8 engine. I know we got a lot of things in books, articles, maybe on the internet somewhere there's a video or two that will take somebody very quickly through it. This first video is really not part one. This video here is an introduction, and it's going to bring you up to speed on where I've been, where we're at now, and where we're headed. So just as a way of explanation, just to tell you very quickly, last week I went up to Tim McMaster's shop. He's also known as the Y-block guy, up in Hanford, California, owner-operator of Hanford Auto Supply and Hanford Machine Shop, to really just have him look at my block, because a few years ago I had sent Tim my rotating assembly and had 30 over 312 pistons. That's 3.830 pistons sent to Tim, the rings. I had a set of C1TE rods that he was going to get prepped for me as well, and 312 crankshaft that Tim's really very well known for turning crankshafts and balancing and all of that. And going to turn down the 312 mains to 292 size for the C2AE block. The flywheel, basically had everything he needed to get the rotating assembly balanced. And then my idea was to take all those stock parts and put them into this block that was prepared. Well, let me show you what happened when I went to Tim's shop. We're inside the shop here. A lot of flatheads, Y-blocks kind of on display. These are for customers. We're going to go ahead and back the van up and look at our C2 block. All right, so what I've got, this block was prepped several years back by machinists with a good reputation. Okay. It's bored 30 over 312, which would be what, 3.830. Yep. Okay. I did have everything gone through. The camshaft bearings have been installed, the kind that Schumann has with that exterior OD. Okay, that's really take care of anything you got with oil to the top end. But couple questions I had. Number one, I do know there's some pitting. I don't think that we'll get into. I think the gasket's around that. Okay, so what do you think about that?
What I think about it is, first of all, it hasn't been line honed, I see.
No, it was not. And that I will say.
Every block I prep, I bore them, deck them, and line hone them. Now, when I line hone them, it's really just a very small cut just to straighten everything up. These things do get distorted over the years. But the other thing about decking it, when I bore it and deck it, I do it on the same machine, this machine over here, and the fixture I use, it squares them up, and I also get equal distance from the center line on both banks.
Right, I got you.
So all four corners will be exact.
Sure.
It's not blueprinting, that's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but it does get them very close to what they're meant to be. And when I deck a lot of these blocks, you'd be surprised at how far out they are. Not just, I don't want to say sloppy manufacturing, but you probably heard the stories about, you know, Mondays and Fridays in the shop. But there's also just general warpage from years and years of use, overheating, abuse, you know, things like that. This is a very clean looking block though. The thing I look for the most on these is in the water jackets to see if they were stored with water in them, because as the water evaporates and goes down, it washboards the cylinders, and then you end up with like pinholes in them.
Sure.
And if you got one cylinder with a pinhole, sure, you can sleeve it, but how close are all the others?
Right.
But yours, it looks really good. But yeah, you want my professional opinion, I would at least line hone it, deck it. Yeah. And not necessarily take all that out, but just make sure the deck is perfectly flat and square with the other.
And see, Tim, here's the difference between a DIY guy like myself and a machinist who knows his trade. All I've done with this is I've taken a straight edge, crossways, both ways, all the way up and down, checked it with a feeler gauge. I think I was 0.002, 0.001, but still, that's not as good as what a machinist can do in the insurance of just decking. You know, I mean, honestly, and let's be real here.
Again, I like the equal distance parts too.
Exactly.
I have a gauge on this machine, so I can bring the cutter down to the same depth on both sides, and it just makes it for a nicer build. And I do that to everyone I build. Could you put this together and run fine? Yeah, probably run great.
Yeah.
All the stuff I talk about is not 100% necessary, but it's, you know, there's that little notch above. And
well, it's all the details, I think, that really...
When I build them, I want to do everything.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. All right, well, sounds good.
Okay.
Now, we're starting with the C2AE block. Very good, though, as far as its shape and its condition. And then we've also got a crankshaft from a 312 Ford that we're going to go ahead and turn down the 292 mains.
Somewhere, but I've got two strokers right here.
Yeah.
And you can see the difference in the size of the journal. But I take them.
Oh, yeah. You could tell with naked eye, can't you? Wow.
So that's a 2-inch crank pin, and it's 3 5/8 stroke.
Originally, I had planned on this being an otherwise stock build with a lot of stock parts off the shelf, and not really anything radically custom or really not trying to increase the stroke. I have already purchased a very good cam from John Mummert, and I put the specs here on the screen for us so you can take a look at this. If you've never been on FordYBlock.com, I encourage you to do so. John's got a lot of great parts for the Ford Y Block. Now, that cam has 500 lift, as you can see. It's got a very, very good profile. It's still streetable, but it's going to add a lot of performance to an otherwise stock build. Well, when I started talking to Tim up there at Hanford, California that afternoon, it wasn't too long before he talked me into making this build into something a whole lot more high performance. So we'll get into a lot of the specs later on, but just as an introduction to what Tim can do, I did ask Tim a couple questions about what it's like to work with guys who may not know very much about how to talk to a machinist, how to communicate. So let's take a look at this clip here. Now, Tim, if you're working with a machinist, give us a couple of tips of the best way to communicate, prep your block, a guy that's maybe never had an engine rebuilt before. Maybe it's his first classic car or two. He wants to get into it. What's the best way to get started just to understand how to work with a machinist on getting his engine rebuilt?
Okay. So,
I know it could be a loaded question, but maybe just a couple tips.
One thing that bothers me the most when somebody calls me for work is when they don't have their ducks in a row. Have your questions, lined out. I'm sure most people are looking on the internet trying to get information nowadays anyway. So when you're going to call me, have a plan. What do you want in the end? What are you building? You're building a mild cruiser, you're building a hot rod, bone stock, nothing wrong with that. Just have an idea what you want to do. Most everybody's on a budget. Y blocks are not as cheap as a small block Chevy, but if you're willing to do a lot of the work yourself, you'd be surprised at how affordable they are. Probably a lot cheaper than yanking it out and putting a 302 in. And they do make good power.
I couldn't agree more.
So if you can't tell, I'm pretty excited about this build. Tim's talked me into doing something I had no plans to do, and it'll cost a little bit more. There's no doubt about that, but it's really exciting. I'm really happy to be able to do this for you guys and for anybody who's a Y-block Ford enthusiast, and to keep as many of these things running on the road as we can. Make sure if you've got questions, you drop it in the comments or maybe shoot an email to me, dan.jessup@hotrodreverend.com, and I'll try to get the answers to you as quickly as I can. But you can plan on a rather lengthy series as we go through here. We want to be very detailed in how we approach this build, explanations, photos, videos, diagrams. We're going to talk about a parts list. We'll also get into cost and talk about maybe different routes you could go as we build this Y-block up. Now, when it comes to building Y-blocks, a lot of us know the Y-block guy. We know Ted Eaton. We know John Mummert. I would dare say in the United States, those three guys are probably the best known for Y-block Ford performance, Y-block Ford and just build integrity, parts, knowledge, tuning, maintenance, all those kinds of things. These guys know their stuff. So it's my privilege to partner with Tim. Tim's going to be the guy, just the brains behind the outfit. I'm going to be the guy like you who's just doing a lot of DIY work. I am going to be assembling this engine in my garage, my two-car garage right here at home in Lancaster, California. We're going to be putting it on my run stand so that you can see and hear, and I can explain quite a bit. It'll be a whole lot easier to see it that way than it would to take a rebuilt engine and just throw it into the car and truck and run it. And no problem with that, but I think the learning experience will be much better this way. So guys, just be patient here over the next few weeks. I'm going to be organizing just a build list of how the video work's going to go. You can imagine building an engine and putting it all together is one thing. It's another thing to marry that with video production, photos, diagram, all the things that we're going to be using, the video clips themselves. So I've got to really think through all this. There's a creative side to this. There's an instructional side. Of course, Tim's going to be the brains behind the outfit. I'm going to be the guy just like you, turning wrenches and assembling the thing here in my two-car garage and putting it on a run stand and breaking the camshaft in myself, and pretty much like a lot of us would do after we work with our machinists to get the parts that we need to put our engine back together. And then, of course, towards the end, we'll put the engine in the 1955 Ford Fairlane Club Sedan, swap it out with the current 292. And some of you may ask, what are you going to do with the 292? That thing runs really great. I've had a lot of comments on that, and it does. I'm going to put it on the run stand and use that when I build carburetors. A lot of you have been asking me to build carburetors for it. Probably over the year, I probably get 60 to 75 different people asking me to rebuild your carburetor, which I want to be able to do that, but I never have sent out a carburetor rebuilt unless I've tested it and tuned it myself on a run stand. And so I'll be able to do that once again once I get this 342 built. Now, I don't have a GoFundMe page, but you can really help support the channel and the website. I do my best to keep the website ad-free. I know we have to have that here on YouTube and all of that kind of thing, but the website and the articles and everything, there are no ads on there. And the way you support is by purchasing merchandise. Get your gear, get your Hot Rod Reverend gear, and merchandise, stickers, mugs, t-shirts, ball caps, all kinds of stuff on the website store. I've even got rebuilt rocker arm shafts that are there. I've got the best thing going on the internet right now, and that's the digital download of the 1949 to 59 Ford parts diagrams, and not just illustrations, but a separate, almost 1,000-page book as well of all the part numbers and nomenclature, plus a whole mess of other great digital manuals that'll be a real help to you. You support the channel, you support the work, and all this production, video work, and all the expenses of all this kind of thing to get this stuff to you every time that you buy something on the website store. So guys, you really want to stay tuned to hotrodreverend.com and stay tuned here to the channel on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification button. You really don't want to miss any of the action on the Y-Block Ford V8 build series here on the channel.